So here's a little campaign the wife and I joined about 20 years ago. We were invited by a friend of a friend we all knew through gaming to join her homebrew rules and world. Now, I hear you cringing, but honestly, the rules were good. It was a point-based system that had good flexibility and decent balance. After reading them, I was impressed. So we found out that every other player went with a caster/martial mix of points. So I went pure martial, and the wife went pure caster. We go for character making, and she promptly chews us out for being disrespectful and late. What the fuck? Oh, she had forgotten about daylight savings. She was an hour off. Okay, great start. It was an ongoing game that we came into. First session we find we are hunting the BBEG's minions to find his hidden castle. Okay, standard stuff. We smoke the minions, find out the hiding place, and that ends the session. She has a DMPC, but that was because they only had 3 other players before us. Okay, I guess. Second session we're in. We polish off patrols of minions and find the castle. We are now halfway through the session. We start planning how 6 people can get past the small army, enter the castle, find the BBG and his lieutenants, and smoke them all. Every idea we have. Her DMPC has a counter-argument. Session ends. Cue the between time. We get a call from her telling us that the other players aren't happy. We are more powerful than they are. We're not? She started us with lower points, but we specialized and they generalized. So she tells us not to spend any more points in our specializations. Whatever. Cue the next session. The clever planning continues. And by that I mean her DMPC spends 3 hours shooting down every idea we have. We have now spent 5 hours on planning and have gotten nowhere. Something happened, though I forget what. Suddenly, the drawbridge opens, and the BBEG comes out and challenges us to group combat. So we walk by the army. We walk past the moat that describe down to the feet of depth and distance. We get on the bridge, we beat the hell out of the bad guys. And that was the end of the campaign. So we get invited in with 3 sessions left, aren't told that, gives us grief about spending XP when there wasn't going to be another session anyway, and wastes half the time telling us what won't work, and then serves the BBEG up on a platter. The end. TLDR, DM invites us into her campaign, gives us grief about character design, wastes a session and a half planning by having her DMPC veto every idea, and then ends the game. Why? Why do this? Why invite them? Why even have them here? What was the point of any of this? You invite 2 new players to join at the end of your campaign and get mad that they're going to be too strong. You want the party to plan, but you don't like their plans, so you just force the fight at the end of the campaign anyway. I can't tell if this DM is inept because they're spiteful, or because they genuinely thought that they could make the ending of this campaign better by tightening the reins and seizing the agency of their players. In either case, if you have one specific way you intend your game's story to go, you need to rethink what it means to run a role-playing game. The players signed up to play the role of their characters. They didn't sign up to play the role of the victim. My name is Jacob Crow, and welcome to the Crow's Perch, where each week I fly in secret to listen to the horrible tales of RPG horror stories passed down from the karma-seeking skalds of Reddit, so that I may pass down their lessons and wisdom onto you. For our next story, user Just a D&D Bard made a post a few weeks ago lamenting that a player in his group had consistently interrupted him, insulted him, and his character, and would go out of his way to gloss over any of this user's character moments. The comments were pretty sympathetic, and after 2 weeks, there was a huge update, as the player finally decided that enough was enough. So, without further ado, let's gather up a murder and dive right into this story. Well, if you're expecting a good ending, this is not the right post for you. I think we could call it the neutral ending. It wasn't good or bad, just people being people. Info. Mr. Asshole is the dude that tried to bully me. Okay, maybe that won't be that great for YouTube, so this Mr. Asshole, Saul, we're gonna call him Saul.
You're tripping Jimmy!
Changeling / rogue, and cleric are the other players. DM is obviously DM. After my previous post, I took some time to think if there was something wrong with my DM, and if this was the right party for me. I talked to the other players, the Changeling and Cleric, to keep things simple. Changeling is the girl that I mentioned in my previous post, and Cleric is the other male player from before Saul joined our game. As I mentioned before, Changeling has a great sense of humor, and we all love her. She managed to make the game fun for me, even when Saul was being a dick. My bard and her rogue would be doing fun stuff, like singing and working on cons to trick bad guys, something like the two characters from El Dorado. I asked her what was her opinion on Saul, and she dislikes him. Even if he can't be a dick to her in front of the others, this dude sometimes will make snarky comments about her. If it was up to Changeling, Saul would be out. I asked her if she would vote for me if the DM made the party choose, and her answer was yes. She is a real one. Really, a good friend. Now, enter Cleric. He gives, like, 0 flocks. I really didn't know how to approach him, since this guy has that eternal poker face, and hates drama. The world could end, or aliens invade us, and he just wouldn't pick a side. I can respect him for that, since we both joined the campaign, just to have fun. Cleric made it clear that he wouldn't vote against me, but since the DM and Saul seemed to be really close, he didn't want to get involved. Yep, it's exactly what you're thinking, but please wait for the big reveal. After talking to Cleric, it was time to confront the DM, but I tried to take it slow and be nice, since she is more of an introvert than me. First, I asked her if Saul had made any complaints about me, and then she suddenly gets really defensive about it, and talks for like 20 minutes about how we both need to cut it out, because it was making her stressed. I asked her what she meant by that, and DM told me about how Saul was nice to her unless she mentioned me. If she talked about me, then Saul would tell her about how I made everything about me and my life, both in-game and off-game. That obviously made me really uncomfortable, and I asked her if that's how she felt too. DM denied it, and told me that maybe Saul was just jealous. As some people had theorized from my previous post, Saul was probably insecure, but it wasn't because of my character. It was because of me. Saul and DM were dating. They just didn't tell us. It was really recent. Even before they started dating, Saul had warned DM that I could be interested in her, and to watch out for me, at least for him, when I did something in the campaign. It was to get her attention. Yep. Flocked up, right? Look at this motherfucker. Look at this guy. He's obviously rolling that dice to seduce the DM and not to perform to the bar people. I let DM vent and calm down before we could continue talking. She had been abused before, and had some serious trauma, both from relationships and bad friends. We both had some bad traumas that seriously messed us up, but her past and traumas are a lot worse than mine. Just giving some context. She is not a jerk, just really bad with people sometimes. After DM calmed down, I made it clear that I wasn't interested in her. She was worried about messing things up and losing both her friend and her boyfriend. That's why she didn't get involved when Saul was being kinda rude to me sometimes. I made it clear that Saul had to cut it out, or it would be him or me in the campaign. But even if I left the campaign, we could still be friends, as long as Saul left me alone. That worked, and she agreed to talk to her boyfriend, aka Saul. Well, obviously it didn't work, or I wouldn't be posting this update at all. Well, White Peace lasted 2 weeks before Saul messed it up again. After the party managed to climb a witch's magical tower, the boss kicked our asses. Rogue wanted to negotiate, but Paladin and Cleric went all Deus Vult on the witch, and it ended badly. The tower was like Barad-dûr, and the witch was like Saruman. We had been hired to steal, magical rings. Cleric managed to save me one last time, but he went down too. We were all about to die, but the DM asked for a break. It wasn't her first time killing a party, but she isn't a big fan of doing it, and Rogue was getting emotional. Saul was trying to cheer up Rogue, while me and Cleric were both talking about making new characters. But then, I had the bardest idea. After Rogue told me to try to seduce the witch as a joke. I rolled with it after DM came back. I asked DM if I could make one last action, and it was to seduce the witch. DM laughed her ass off because of how dumb it was, but she allowed it, since the witch could kill me with one hit. Natural 20. It was beautiful. Obviously you can't seduce the big bad, but it was enough to convince her to recruit us. One of the magical rings even showed up, and decided to choose my character, after the big bad allowed it. We're all having fun, right? Nope. Saul would later tell me to shut up out of nowhere, and ruin all my fun. This time it wasn't for a mistake or something. It was just really uncalled. His paladin was talking to the big bad, and I asked a question about the rings. It was enough for him to stop, look at me, and say, "Shut up!" and then continue talking like nothing happened. I then looked to the DM to see if she would do something, but she just stood there, red as a flocking tomato. That's exactly when it hit me. DM wasn't going to change. And it was the same with Saul. Even if I had fun sometimes, it just wasn't fun at all. After taking a deep breath, I just stood up and called the guy a flocking asshole and left. At the end of the day, it was my choice to stay with the coward DM and Saul. I then left the Discord and warned DM that I wouldn't join any games or go anywhere with that guy. I'm not gonna lie, this made me feel amazing. It was the best feeling in the world, but it gets even better. Rogue messaged me later and told me about how she called DM and Saul on their bullshit after I left. She just decided to leave the campaign too. Cleric decided to stay, but he agreed with Rogue and talked to DM that it had to stop. Saul was being a dick, and it was obviously because he was dating the DM. Saul messaged me later and apologized, probably forced by DM. My humble answer was for him to flock off and never message me again, before blocking him. It was the best feeling in the world. Rogue decided to block DM because she's still angry at her for not kicking her boyfriend from the group. We're currently looking for a new group, and decided to make characters inspired by El Dorado in another game. Really a good friend. I don't talk to Cleric too much, but we're cool. He even invited me to a different group on Discord, but I need a break from D&D. And now for DM. I didn't block her, and we still talk, but things just feel weird. We probably won't play together again and just drift away. I feel like she probably hates me for standing up for myself, but it had to be done. I feel bad for DM because a relationship looks toxic as fuck. I want to be here as a friend if she regrets it later. She was my friend before this shit happened. I want to be friends again, but we both need a break. Edit. I will miss playing with my friends, but things happen. I'm currently kinda sad and angry, but that's life. What do I call this feeling? Sangry? Sajgry? Whatever. Still looking for things to do when the game day arrives to distract myself. It was a campaign of 3 years. We had other players that left before Saul arrived. I won't post any more updates because it's over. Thanks from all the support and advice. Hope you're all having a nice day. I'll be poisoning myself with pizza to feel better. Before I get into it, I just want to give props to Rogue here for being a real one. Having someone to have your back against harassment or general douchebaggery can be a lifesaver. And to the OP, you did a good thing standing up for yourself. and you shouldn't have to put up with people like Saul, especially for as long as you did. And as for this DM, refusing to take a side, especially when a player is being bullied, is taking the side of the bully. Apathy is a choice, and by making that choice, this DM was complicit to Saul's bad behavior. I understand the hesitation, but it doesn't excuse it. We all have our biases, and the problem player literally being your significant other is a huge bias towards him. But that bias should not have stopped you from talking to your players about how they felt about Saul, so that you could then make a decision about his participation in the game, or even whether or not you would continue it without him should it have come to that. But by avoiding all of this and not making a decision, you made a pretty big flocking decision. But in our next story, this DM makes far too many decisions for his players, forcing them to trigger traps, throwing them into ambushes, and then deciding that the entire party is too stupid to know how doors work. So, without further ado, let's get our thieves' tools ready as we keep the murder going into this next story. This story happened while playing Sunless Citadel 5th edition, but there will be no spoilers ahead. We were 4 players, a wizard, a barbarian, a rogue, and a cleric, all level 2. DM is a great friend of ours, but is the type of DM that sometimes tells you that you get hit by a trap after you searched a room for traps with a 20 perception roll, because you didn't specify to check the ceiling of the room and not only the floor. Or when he has something in mind, he will make it happen regardless of any action the group has made to prevent it. He is also pretty bad at reading modules and monster abilities, but this is another story. We were exploring the dungeon, and after some fights, we were doing a short rest in one room after making sure there were no other enemies around. DM:
You are all resting when you hear a skittering noise from the corridor, and an enormous insect similar to a cockroach approaches you. You immediately recognize it as a rust monster. 2 identical monsters come out from a huge gash on the wall and approach you. Roll for initiative. You are surprised.
Us. Wait, we obviously closed the door to the room before starting the short rest. We told you we made our position safe, and you didn't tell us there was a huge open gash on one side of the room, or we would have inspected it. DM:
You didn't specify you closed the door, and the gash was just a big open gash.
Cleric:
But I have the feat observant. I have like 20 passive perception. Shouldn't have I at least heard the insects come way before getting surprised? Did you roll their stealth that high?
DM:
No, but you were sleeping. You had no passive perception.
Cleric:
Sleeping? We were just doing a short rest.
The DM didn't listen to the complaints, and the combat starts. But we just wanted to escape. We didn't want to risk our few weapons and armors. Wizard:
I exit the room and reach for the door at the end of the hallway. I try to open it. Does it open?
DM:
You try to push the door, and it remains closed. What do you do?
Wizard:
Do I still have my action after trying the door?
DM:
Yes, you do.
Wizard:
I keep my ready action to help the barbarian open the door when he comes here.
After the barbarian came to help, we tried breaking through the door, but the barbarian rolled low, even with advantage. Meanwhile, the rust monsters are trying to melt every piece of equipment of the cleric, using both their Atene attack and bite attack against his equipment during the same turn, which they should not be able to do. DM:
You push and push, but with no avail. The door is too solid.
Wizard:
Damn, I keep my action again to help the barbarian again.
DM:
Make an insight check.
Wizard rolled something like 15. DM, with a smug face:
You have realized you have only tried to push the door, not to pull it.
Wizard tries to pull the door, and the door opens freely.
What the hell? I have 16 intelligence with this wizard. I told you I tried to open the door. I even asked you if I used my action to do it. You told me the door didn't open, and I even still had my action. It's not like my PC is that dumb to not try to open the door both ways.
DM.
You were in a panic. You didn't even try to pull the door until now.
Wizard actually was the less panicked person in the room, since he had literally no metal equipment on himself. After that, there was a bit of an argument, but then we decided to let it go, and just proceed to the next room and to the rest of the dungeon. The whole adventure became for us a series of salty and nonsensical moments that now we look back with exasperated hilarity. I could squeeze out at least another 3 small horror story moments from it. The DM was not even new to the game. We all were already experienced, both as players and DMs. And we chose to do this low-level adventure just to change pace from a high-level campaign we were in. Ah, the door. The most classic of Dungeons & Dragons dilemmas. How do you approach the door? Do you open it slightly ajar, looking for any wires? Do you drop kick it and bash it open? There are moments when specificity is really important when it comes to player actions, especially for a dilemma as iconic as the door. This is not one of those moments. The wizard said he tried to open it, and we can assume at least a little bit of competence on behalf of the player characters. At least enough competence to have opened a door at least once in their life. So if they try to open a door and it doesn't work, then just tell him that so he can come up with a different idea. But no, this dungeon master decided to be a pedant. He got caught up with the idea of being more clever than he actually was. This DM gets 4 doors out of 10, alongside a sticky note that says, when your players prevent something bad from happening, it's okay to just let them win sometimes, Or at least, this time. but no, it is okay to let your players win. Otherwise, they're going to stop coming up with clever solutions, as they realize the only thing that matters in your campaign is making high attack rolls, while they slowly stop giving a damn about what happens in your game. And with that final door closed, I think it's about time we end today's video. And if you like today's stories and would like to see more of them, then open up that like button, and pick the lock on the subscribe button. And hey, if you made it this far, why not leave a comment? Can't think of a comment? Then leave the comment, open the door, so I know you made it to the end of today's video. Want to further support the Crow's Perch and my crippling addiction to collecting small sticks? Then hit the join button, or sign up on the Crow's Perch Patreon to become a member of the Burb aristocracy. Members and patrons get access to special Discord roles and get videos a day early. They also get shoutouts like this, introducing our counts of Quills, like Tecrus, Reuven, Eryn Kados, Kirito Kazuto, Critical Kunic, Evix, King Drazil, Christian Pipp, Cosmosis, Rykis, Vincent, Hailey Thompson, Zerofang, and Netscape Navigator. But you know who pledges more than the counts? The Barons and Beaks. Like Miss Tiger Beans, Valleyson, New Haven RP, Kieran Slater, Running Bear 2525, Ginga Ninja, Hailey McAuliffe, Brittney Marrs, Rathiana the Nerd, Sarah Warren, Spectre Spark, Ars to Rock, Ghost Legan, Mr. Hypocritical, Jesse Shodell, Kuntos Weasel, Tech Blog, Carter, Cardespawn, Jester King, Lord Rand, Wormy, Dan of the Drake, Mickey Eatley, and Anya. But if you want to go a tier higher, then become a Duke of Feathers, like Repetitive Debug, Elf, Carson, Craycard, Kive Mind, The School Bus, Mirage Vaxis, Quinn, Jarrett Sewer, Blues Otters, Jared Zemlin, Doc Salty 96, Matthew Mulqueeny, and Akroth. And with all of that out of the way, I'll see you next time as the crow flies.